Right now, your mind has never once been truly empty. Not for a single second of your entire life. There has always been a notification, a song, a scroll, a screen pulling at your attention. You have never experienced what a human mind feels like when there is nothing to fill it. For most of history, that was all there was. Nothing. And what happened inside that nothing changed everything. Think about your average day. You wake up and check your phone before your eyes have fully adjusted to the light. You eat breakfast with a podcast in your ear. You commute with music or a video or a conversation happening somewhere on the other side of the world. Every gap, every waiting room, every elevator, every quiet moment gets filled instantly. Your mind has been trained since childhood to expect input, to demand it, to panic slightly when it doesn't arrive. But rewind 200 years. A farmer in rural England wakes before dawn. He walks to his field. He works for 11 hours. No music, no news, no voice from anywhere outside the few square miles he has ever known. Just his hands, the soil, and his own mind. And he did this every day, for his entire life. The question nobody asks is, what was he thinking about? Historians have largely ignored this question. We know what people did before the internet. We have almost no record of what they thought. The inner life of ordinary people, the farmer, the seamstress, the shepherd, was considered too mundane to document. Only kings and philosophers left records of their minds. Everyone else just thought in silence. And the silence was swallowed by time. But in the last few decades, a small group of researchers started looking at the edges of the historical record. Diaries from the 1700s, letters between ordinary people, ethnographic studies of remote communities still living without modern media. And what they found was not what anyone expected. In 2010, psychologists Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert at Harvard published a study that would become one of the most cited pieces of research in modern psychology. They tracked 2,250 people throughout their daily lives, interrupting them at random moments to ask one question. What are you thinking about right now? Is it what you are currently doing? Or something else entirely? The results were striking. In 47% of their waking hours, people's minds were not on what they were doing. They were somewhere else. Running simulations, replaying the past, constructing futures that hadn't happened yet. Gilbert called it the default mode, the thing your brain does the moment it is not forced to focus on something external. And here's what's fascinating. This is not a modern phenomenon. This is not something the internet created. The internet didn't teach your brain to wander. Your brain was wandering long before there was anything to wander away from. The default mode network is one of the most active systems in your brain. It fires up the moment external demands drop away. Neuroscientists once thought it was doing nothing, background noise between tasks. They were wrong. The default mode network is where your brain processes identity. It's where you simulate other people's perspectives. It's where you plan, rehearse, regret, and imagine. It is, in a very real sense, the place where you become yourself. And for most of human history, people lived almost entirely inside it. A shepherd in 14th century France didn't have an algorithm competing for his attention. He had clouds. He had the sound of animals. He had 12 uninterrupted hours with nothing but his own consciousness. And his brain did exactly what brains do when left alone. It wandered. It built stories. It turned over problems and losses and hopes with no timer running and no notification waiting. Psychologist Mary Helen Imordino-Yang at the University of Southern California spent years studying what happens to children who are never given unstructured mental downtime. Her conclusion was direct. The brain needs idleness the way the body needs sleep, not to rest, to consolidate, to construct a coherent sense of who you are and what your life means. Without it, something essential starts to fracture. And here's the part that almost nobody talks about. The pre-internet mind wasn't just quieter, it was more intimate with itself. People knew their own thoughts in a way that is genuinely difficult for modern humans to access. In the 1800s, the practice of keeping a personal journal was not considered an artistic pursuit. It was considered basic mental hygiene. Ordinary people, farmers, merchants, soldiers, kept diaries not to record events but to process them, to think on paper because thinking out loud to yourself was the only tool available. Samuel Pepys wrote nearly 1 million words in his diary across 10 years, not because he was a writer, because writing was how he understood his own life. There are villages in rural India today where television arrived for the first time within living memory. Anthropologists who studied these communities before and after found something they didn't anticipate. Before television, people in these villages spent their evenings in conversation. They told stories. They argued. They sat with elderly relatives and absorbed 70 years of compressed experience. After television arrived, the conversation stopped almost immediately. Not because people became less intelligent, because something arrived that was better at capturing attention than another human being. Here's what that means. For 300,000 years, the most interesting thing in any human's environment was another human, or the workings of their own mind. There was no competition. Boredom wasn't an enemy to be defeated. It was a doorway. The moment your external world ran out of things to offer, your internal world opened up. You started solving problems you hadn't consciously identified. You started processing grief you hadn't finished feeling. You started imagining futures, rehearsing conversations, building the scaffolding of who you were becoming. The pre-internet mind wasn't empty. It was full of itself, full of the people it loved and feared and wondered about, full of the problems it was quietly working through beneath the surface of the day. We didn't just gain something when the internet arrived. We traded something. We traded the uncomfortable, productive, deeply human experience of being alone with our own thoughts for an endless supply of other people's thoughts instead. And the exchange happened so fast and felt so good that almost nobody noticed what was lost. Tonight, when you put your phone down and the room goes quiet, notice what happens. Notice the slight anxiety, the pull toward the screen, the sense that silence needs to be filled. That feeling is not weakness. That is 300,000 years of a very different kind of mind pressing up against the walls of the one you've built. Your ancestors didn't have more willpower than you do. They didn't need it. The silence was simply all there was. And inside that silence, they found out who they were. The question is whether you still can.